Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today I want to talk about AI and how it might be more important for Gen X than we all thought at first. So if you're 55 or older, AI may have just enabled a new superpower for you. Now, I'm 57. I've programmed in one form or another for most of my life, not professionally, not as a software engineer, more like hobby level programming, mostly Python, mostly little scripts, the kind of things you build when you know there has to be a better way to do something, but you just don't have the formal training, time, or energy to become a full-time developer. So for years, that meant I could automate small pieces of my life, like a script here, a spreadsheet there, maybe an API call if I could figure it out. But there was always this ceiling. I could usually describe the tool that I wanted. I could usually see the workflow problem clearly. And sometimes I understood the problem better than the people who built the official software. But turning that into a real app with a front end, a back end, a database infrastructure, and security and all the things that make software actually work, that was a whole different level of effort. Normally, that meant involving IT or waiting on a vendor or trying to get someone in our development or engineering team interested, or just giving up and living with a bad tool. But AI changed that equation. And I don't think people fully understand what that means for people who are older, because AI didn't make me younger. It made my experience more useful. A couple months ago, I was working on a Python script and I got stuck. Normally, I would have searched Google, read Stack Overflow, and just through trial and error, I would figure it out. But this time, I decided to ask Grok, how do I do this in Python? And it answered. So I copied what it gave me and I pasted it into my code. And honestly, that alone felt useful. It was like having a patient tutor sitting next to me. But after doing that a few times, something clicked. I thought, wait a minute, it can write more than just one line that I'm stuck on. It can write the whole function. Then I realized it could probably write the whole script. At first, I was still the one driving the code. I would ask for a chunk, copy it, paste it, modify it, test it, and then fix it. But my mental model had changed. AI was no longer just a better search engine. It was becoming a programming partner. Then I was introduced to Claude Code. This was like early in the Claude Code days. But that's when things really started to change. Now I wasn't just asking AI to explain code or hand me little snippets. I was asking it to modify complete files, build pieces of a project, understand the project structure, run commands, test things, fix things, and then tell it to keep going. At first, these were simple Python scripts, but then I realized something much bigger. I could ask it to build a front end and then a back end, then the database infrastructure to actually serve the app. And that was the turning point. The breakthrough wasn't just AI can code. The breakthrough was AI can turn domain knowledge into working software. And that's a completely different thing. A lot of people argue about the models. Is Claude better? Is Codex better? Is Grok better? Those questions matter. But I don't think that's the main thing. The model is just the engine. The real unlock is the harness. By harness, I mean the environment around the model. The tool that lets the AI read files, edit files, run commands, test code, understand the project, and keep working across multiple steps. That's the difference between asking a chatbot for a Python snippet and having an AI agent build in an actual working system. The harness turns the model from a smart assistant into something closer to a senior programmer that you can direct. And for someone my age, that's a massive equalizer, because I may not know every modern framework. I may not know the latest JavaScript build system. I'm not fluent in every deployment pipeline. I don't even know what that means, but I do know the problems. I know where the friction is. I know what the customer actually needs. I know where the vendor tool is super confusing, and I know what information matters and what is just noise. AI now gives me the missing layer between knowing the problem and building the solution. That's why I think this is especially important for people who are 55 and older, because there's this common fear that AI is going to make older workers obsolete. I actually think that's backwards. AI may make certain narrow technical skills less scarce, but it also makes experience more valuable. If you're 55 or older, you've probably spent decades building judgment. You know how businesses actually work. You know what customers complain about. You know which enterprise tools are powerful, but basically unusable. The context used to be trapped inside your head unless you could convince someone else to build something with it. But now you can hand that context to an AI agent and say, build me the tool that I always wished existed. That's new. That's not just productivity, that's leverage. Let me give you an example. My daughter's getting close to college age, and I knew we needed to start thinking about scholarships. The old way would have been obvious. Google search, find a scholarship, build a list, open up a spreadsheet, copy everything in there, track the deadlines, figure out which ones to apply for, and basically apply everywhere and hope something hits. But with AI, I started thinking differently. Why not build an agent? Instead of manually searching once in a while, the agent can go out every day. It can go out every hour and look for scholarships. Instead of dumping everything into a spreadsheet, it can compare each opportunity against my daughter's actual profile. What year is she in? What field is she interested in? What state is she from? What school is she targeting? Which scholarships are high probability and which ones are long shots? Now the workflow becomes smarter. We're not blindly applying everywhere. We're ranking opportunities. We're trying to spend her time where it has the highest expected value. That's not just automation. That's parent domain knowledge turned into a system. Here's another example. Vendor software. Some vendors build powerful tools, but the interfaces are terrible. I don't know why, but sometimes it feels like they let engineers design the interfaces for non-engineering users. The result is technically complete, but practically exhausting. Too many options, too much noise, too many screens, too much jargon. The customer doesn't need all of that. The customer needs the few things that actually matter presented in a way that makes sense. Before AI, if I wanted a better interface, I had limited options. Complain to the vendor, wait for a roadmap, ask an internal development team, or just tolerate the bad workflow. But now I can build my own simplified interface. I can strip away the noise. I can make the tool usable for the actual customer. That's a big deal because the person closest to the pain can now build a relief. That's why I think AI is the great ground leveler or maybe the great equalizer. But I think it's even more than that. AI resets what old means. In a normal technology cycle, age can feel like a disadvantage. New tools come out, new languages, new platforms, new acronyms. Now, younger people often absorb them faster because they have fewer old patterns to unlearn, but AI changes the balance. If the AI can help with the syntax, the frameworks, the boilerplates, the server setup, and the code structure, then the scarce thing becomes something else. The scarce thing becomes judgment. It becomes taste, experience. It becomes domain expertise, knowing what should be built, knowing why it matters, knowing what not to build. That gives older workers a new kind of power. Not because we suddenly become 25-year-old programmers, but because we can now pair decades of lived experience with an agent that can execute. For most of my career, if I wanted an app, I had to think in terms of organizational friction, like who owns the system, who has the budget, who can approve it, who has the development resources. Now, instead of saying, I have an idea, you can say, here's the thing working. That's a completely different level of credibility. So the superpower is not really coding. That's the mistake. The superpower is not that it lets a 57-year-old write Python faster. That's useful, but that's not the main point. The superpower is that AI lets someone with decades of experience finally build the tools that experience has been imagining. It lets a parent build a scholarship agent. It lets a customer-facing professional simplify a vendor interface. It lets a domain expert prototype an app without waiting 6 months. It lets someone who understands the workflow become the builder of the workflow. For people 55 and older, that may be one of the biggest opportunities of the AI era. Not because AI makes us young again, but because AI makes our accumulated experience executable. Younger people may still move faster with the new tools. They may adopt workflows more naturally. They may have more time to experiment. But older workers have something incredibly valuable: signal. We know what matters. We know what breaks. We know what customers actually do versus what the process document says they do. We know which features are noise. We know where a simple tool would save hours. AI gives us a way to convert that signal into software. That is the new superpower. So if you're 55 or older, don't look at AI as something that passed you by. Look at it as that tool that may finally let your experience compound. You don't have to become a software engineer. You don't have to master every framework. You don't have to write every line of code. But you do need to learn how to direct the agent. You need to learn how to describe the problem clearly. You need to bring your judgment, your domain knowledge, your taste, and your lived experience, because the future may not belong only to the people who can code from scratch. It may belong to the people who know what needs to be built and can now tell an AI agent to help them build it. For those of us who are 55 and older, that may be the new superpower. Okay, guys, thanks for listening. If any of this resonated with you, if any of this made any sense to you, go ahead and hit like and subscribe below, and we'll see you in the next video.